A recent question came up on Discord asking how you would flip a playing card and have a video on the back side of it. So this is my take on that. Okay, so I've got a couple of bits from the internet. I've got some card backs and I've got a couple of video clips. The effect is done in Fusion, so we will look for our Fusion clip as normal. So go to the top of the screen to Effects Library and make sure it's turned on. Down to Effects, and then you've got Fusion Composition here at the top. If you click on the little star, it will put your Fusion Composition down here under Favorites, and then you don't need to go hunting for it every time you need it. So bring your Fusion Comp onto the timeline. It defaults to 5 seconds. I'm probably going to leave it at 5 seconds. If you want to do a sort of slideshow, so sort of several videos, obviously you'll need to drag it out and make it longer to accommodate that. Okay, so into Fusion. Make sure your playhead's over your Fusion comp and click the magic wand tool to go into Fusion. So here we are on the Fusion page. So the effect is basically split into 3 parts. You've got the card itself, you've got the animation, and then you've got the 3D scene, and we'll build them one at a time. So starting off with the card, bring your card back image into the Fusion node graph. Now at the minute this is the wrong size for what we want. So what we need to do is merge that onto a background node. So come to the toolbar in the middle, far left you've got background. Select that and drag it in to your Fusion window. With your background selected, i.e. it's got a red outline, come over to the inspector. If the inspector's not open, you can just click up the top here and then come down, and where you've got alpha, just drop it to 0. What that does is it makes your background transparent. We're now going to take the output from our card and we're going to drop it onto the output of the background, and this produces this merge node. You can then put the merge in the viewer and you can see our card is on a transparent background. At the minute it's possibly slightly too big. Let me just, oh no, it's not too bad. So my card happens to be the right size, so that's great. If your card isn't the right size, if you click on your merge node, you can adjust the size of your card here to make it fit with your screen. We need to make 2 sides of our card. We've got the card back and then we've got the front face with the video on it. Both need to be the same size. To do that, we're going to use a mask, and we're going to use the same mask for our card and for our video. The mask is going to be a simple rectangle. Again, come to the middle toolbar here and you'll find rectangle. Drag that and bring it into your node tree. Now you're going to take the output from this rectangle and you're going to put it into the blue mask input of the merge node. This now masks off the rest of the screen. So what we're going to do, if you grab the edges of the mask, you can pull them in and out. I'm going to zoom in. To zoom into your view, press and hold the control key and just scroll your middle mouse button. And what I want is this red line to be just after the black edge, like so. And we're going to do the same for the height. So again, zoom in. Where you've got this black line, we want our mask to be just inside that. And then just to finish it off, with your rectangle selected, if you come to the inspector, you've got corner radius. Click and hold in the numbers and just slide until you get the rounded corner, like so. So now we've masked off our card and we know how big our card is, we can use this same mask on our video. So bring in your video. What I'm also going to do is merge that video onto another transparent background. You'll see why in a second. Like so. And now I'm going to do is just change those around. We can take this a second output from our rectangle and put it onto the blue mask input of this second merge. Just so that we don't start getting too confused, I'm going to rename some of these nodes. If you click a node, press F2, and then you can rename it. Now, if we put merge 2 into our viewer, you can see that we've now masked off our video to the same dimensions of the card. But what you notice is that the horse is slightly off center. So what we're going to do with the horse video selected, come back to your toolbar in the middle and find this icon that says transform and just click it. This puts a transform node between the horse and the merge. Now you can select your transform node and you can make changes to your video. So we can change the center position like so. So now we have our card back and our horse. So what we can now do is join them together and make them into a card. In fact, before I do that, I'm going to put a border around this horse. To put the border, I'm going to bring in another background. I'm going to make a copy. So select the rectangle, Control C to copy, click away, Control V to paste. I'm going to mask this background. I'm going to select this background, open the color picker and make it white. Now I'm going to take the output of this background, this white background, and merge it onto this second merge node. What that's done is it's given us a white rectangle the same size as our card, but we don't want a white rectangle. What we want is a white border. So come back to your rectangle, come to your inspector and uncheck where it says solid. Where it says border width, press and hold and bring that up to give you the size of border that you want. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to again zoom into this using the control key and the middle mouse wheel. I'm going to grab the edge of this border and I'm going to just bring it in, and I want it to sit just on the edge of the picture like so. Come over and do the same at the side like so, and what you need to do is just tweak your corner radius so that it goes back out. So now we've got our bordered video on one side and our card on the other. So at this point we have pretty much our card. All we need to do now is make it 3D. To do that, come back to your tool menu at the top here. This right hand bunch of icons are all for 3D work, and the first one is image plane. We want 2 image planes. One for our card back and one for our video. And we're going to merge both of those again, take the output of one and drop it onto the other. And now if you look at this, we're now in 3D space and we have our card in the middle. Now what you notice is that you can't actually see the card back, and that's because the card back and the video image planes are both sat in exactly the same place. So you need to tell the 3D space not to see the back side of each image plane. Sorry. So I'm going to start with the horse because so this is our horse path. If you click on the image plane, the first thing we need to do is turn it round so it's facing the other way. So in the inspector, click on transform, come to Y and change Y to 180. And that's basically flipped the card around the vertical axes. Now we need to turn off the back of the card, which is what we're looking at the minute. So come to Controls, open up the visibility section, and where it says cull faces, check back. Now what we need to do is cull the back face of our card so that when we spin the card round, you don't see the card back from the other side. So select your image plane that's attached to your card back, open visibility, and just cull back. Now, if you watch in this viewer, I'm going to spin it round. To spin it round, you press and hold the Option key, press and hold your middle mouse button, and that allows you to rotate your view. So you can see we've got our card back on one side and our horse on the other. And that is your card made. So now we need to animate it. So just to keep things tidy, I'm going to group these together. To do that, click anywhere and drag a box around all your nodes. Press Ctrl and G, and that makes a nice little group. Again, with the group selected, press F2 and just rename it. So we know that that's our card. We don't need to do anything else to that. So now we need to animate it. There's two parts of the animation. You've got the card flipping over and you've got the card bending. It's important that we do these in the right order because otherwise it all messes up. So we'll do the bending bit first. So with card selected and red, press Shift and Spacebar and type Bender. And you get this Bender 3D node. And what you're going to do is you're going to come into the inspector and you're going to set the bender up in the same way that I do. So you change axis to X, you change angle to 90, and you change range maximum to 0.75. What changing the range maximum to 0.75 does is it keeps this edge static and lets this edge be bent. Oh, we do need to go back into the card because there's a couple of things we need to do to the image plane. So let's do that while I think about it. If you double click on card, it opens it all up for you. Click on each image plane in turn. And at the top, you've got subdivisions. Crank that up, or better still, type 50 in each, I think. Should do it. What that does is it just gives more divisions on your card so that when you bend it, you get a smoother curve. And do the same with the other one. So again, change it to 50. And then you can click in this little dot here and just close your group back down. So back to the bender. What I'm going to do from it, I'm going to change from two views to one view so I can see what we're doing. So if you come to the top of your view windows here, you've got this rectangle single viewer, click it, and now you've just got the one view. Again, navigating around the 3D view, Alt or Option key plus holding down your middle mouse button lets you rotate your view. Holding Command and scrolling your middle mouse button lets you zoom in and out. And then just holding the middle mouse button on its own lets you pan around. So let's just make that a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Right, bender. So once you've set the bender node up as I told you, all you need to do is change the amount. Sorry, we need to put our bender into the viewer. Change the amount and you can see that the card will bend. So it's just a case of picking how much you want it to bend. So we'll animate that bit first. So come back to frame 0, go to amount, and click the grey diamond so it turns red. You've just set a keyframe. Come forward about half a second, so for me 12 frames, and then set your bend to whatever you want it to be. About 0.7, is that too much? 0.65. What we're then going to do is we're going to flip the card over and then we will straighten the card towards the end. So I'm going to set up the straightening of the card. So if you come to frame 36, which is a second and a half, click on the keyframe next to amount and then come to frame 42, which is another quarter second. we're going to drop this back to 0. Okay, so you can quickly look at that. What you get is this effect and then that effect. What I'm also going to do with the bender selected, if you come up to the top of the screen where it says spline, click that, check where it says bender, and then you've got this little zoom to fit button. This shows all your keyframes for that animation. Just drag, select them all, and hit F on your keyboard. That just flattens out these curves and gives you a bit of easing on either side. Okay, so we've got our bend going on. The next thing we need to add is our flip. And to add our flip, select bender, make sure it's got a red outline, shift spacebar and type transform, if I can spell, space 3, and we're looking for this transform 3D and chuck it in. Now with our transform 3D, we're going to want to rotate our card around the vertical axes, but at the minute we rotate it, it's in the viewer, you will see it, it's rotating around the middle, and we don't want that to happen. What we want is for it to rotate somewhere along this edge. So to do that, we're going to need to change the pivot point. So if you come to the corner of your 3D view where it says perspective, right click and pick front. This puts your card flat onto you now, so you can see what's happening. Again, using your control or command key and zoom in your middle mouse button, you can zoom into your card. What we want to do is take this handle and put it just off the edge of the card over here. So come to pivot, and you're going to be moving it along X. So click and hold in the numbers and drag like so, and we want it sort of just off the edge of the card, so maybe about 0.18. Now if you go back to perspective and still with our transform selected, now if you rotate along Y, you can see that the actual card flips over. So that's what we were after. So now we need to set the animation for the flip over. Come to frame 12 where our bend is completed. Go to rotation and check the grey diamond next to Y. And then come to frame 48 and increase or decrease Y to -180. Like so. And that should give us our nice animation. Like so. And that's basically the card animation done. Now what we need to do is get that into a format that is usable on the timeline. To do that, we're going to pass the whole lot through a little 3D scene. So to make our 3D scene, click away from everything so there's nothing selected here. Come back up to your 3D tools, and you want this middle one first, which is a merge, a 3D merge. Then you want a camera, which is next to it, and a spotlight, which is next to it, and then a render 3D node. Now, the thing with a 3D merge is you can add as many things into this as you want, unlike a 2D merge where you've only got 2 inputs. So we've got our spotlight in the scene, we've got our camera in the scene, and now I'm going to add our card into the scene. And if we view that 3D merge, I'm going to come back up here and go to 2 views. And I'm going to put the render 3D view into here. Now at the minute we can't see anything because the camera is sat right up against our card. First thing we're going to need to do is put our camera in the right position. And by the right position, I mean I want the camera sat on that pivot point. If you remember when we moved the pivot point to animate our card. So I'm going to select camera and I'm going to go to transform and I'm going to move along the X to minus 1.8, which was the same point as our pivot point. I'm now going to come to Z and bring that back. And now we can see our card and we can position it. So now if we play the animation through and make sure it all stays where we want it to, like so. The next thing we need to think about is lighting. I mean, you don't need to think about lighting, you can leave it as it is. The difficulty with that is that you don't have any shade or anything. To introduce shade, you're going to need lighting. So we've got our spotlight. With our spotlight, we need to set it up so that it points at the same place as our pivot. And to do that, we're going to click Use Target. And we're going to bring the X and put that at 0.18, which is the same place as our pivot point was at. Now, if we bring the Z axis of our light, you can pull it out. At the minute, nothing appears to happen. But if you come to this lighting button at the top and click it, now you can see the effect of the light on the scene. So we're going to come out. You can continue to position your light using your transition wheels here, or you can grab any of the little handles that are attached to your light and just pull it around. And what you're looking for is a position for the light that's going to light both this side and light when it's over the other side. So that looks kind of okay. Again, at the moment you're not seeing the shading because we need to turn shading on in our render 3D node. So click your render 3D node, hit light and hit shadow. And you end up with this. And that's pretty much it. What you would do now is sort of fine tune. And the things I would look at fine tuning primarily are the lighting or the sort of reflectiveness of our card. And to change that, we're going to again double click to open up card, come to image planes on both the back and the front, go to material, and here you see specular. If you open specular and turn the intensity down to about 50% to start off with, or 0.5, so this is for the card back. So if we come all the way over, so by dropping it down, you can see you haven't got quite as much of a bloom at the top here, like so, by dropping the intensity down. You can also bring the exponent up, which will again dull it down some more. So you've still got a bit of a reflection, but it's not quite as pronounced. And then we can do the same with the image plane for our horse. So as it comes over, you notice you've got a very bright glare there. So again, go to materials, go to specular, and drop to about 0.5, like so. So you still get a slight sheen, but it's not as heavy. And now we have our card with shading, flipping, turning over, and then settling back down. And that's basically it. What I did from here on in is I added a couple of extra cards, if you like. So the card now becomes modular. You can copy this card, you can change the video that's on the card, and you can change the keyframing, and that will then let you add multiple cards that can flip over. So before we go into adding extra cards, you need to take your output from your render 3D node, slap it onto your immediate out node. You can now go back to the edit page and view the effect on the edit page. You just need to wait for this red bar to turn blue while the effect caches. This allows it to play back smoothly. So you end up with that. Okay, so back in Fusion. One of the nice things, I suppose, about Fusion is your ability to sort of reuse stuff rather than having to build it all from scratch again. So if you double click and open your card, this rectangle, these card background merge and image plane, you can select them and copy them like so. So Control C or Command C to copy them. If you then close that down, click away from everything, and Control V, what that gives you is just your card background with no animation on it. And what you can do with that is you can take the output from this image plane and pipe it into our Merge 3D, and it places a blank card that has no animation on it, doesn't do anything, but what it means is when our card now flips over, the next card in the deck is waiting. The other modular thing, if you like, we can do is we can actually select a card, Control C, click away, Control V, and we've got another card. It's ready to go. So all you need to do with this is open it up, and where you've got your horse video clip here, delete it and then bring in your next video clip. So this is the back of our new card, or the front, the face with the video on it. So what we can do is we can now open this transform and we can play with our settings, and we can find the bit of the card that we want to show, like so. And now we can copy our animation nodes, pipe our card into them, and what we need to do is now move all these keyframes so that the first keyframe starts about frame 54. And to do that, make sure both nodes are selected. Come to the top of the screen where it says keyframe, and this now shows, well, it shows all the keyframes. I don't want that. Come to these little three dots, check them and say show only selected tools. So now these are the keyframes for these two nodes. If you open them up, click zoom to fit. And if you put your playhead at frame 54, you can now drag out and select all these keyframes so that they turn yellow. Grab the very first one and just pull them over so that that first keyframe sits at frame 54. You can now close your keyframe editor, take an output from this second transform and pipe it into our 3D scene. If you remember, I said you can put as many things as you want into this merge 3D. And now what we will get is our first card will flip, settle down, and then you can have a second card flip. Now what you need to bear in mind is the more clips and cards you have going on, the more work you're giving your computer. So it's going to start slowing down. But you get the general idea. What you may also need to do is adjust not only the position of your second clip, but also if you come to media in 1, you have global in-out positions and trim positions. This lets you change which bit of the video between the trim and the global in-out. It lets you pick which bit of your video gets shown as it comes over. And that's pretty much the card flip idea that I had. Obviously, if you're going to add more cards, you'd need to make your fusion composition longer than 5 seconds to accommodate them. But theoretically, you can layer as many cards as you want. Anyway, I hope that helps. I hope it makes sense. If not, fire a comment down below, and I'll try and answer as best I can. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell, and I will catch you on the next one.